In folklore, a werewolf, or Old English werewolf, man-wolf, or occasionally lycanthrope, is an individual who can shapeshift into a wolf, or especially in modern film, a therianthropic hybrid wolf-like creature, either purposely or after being placed under a curse or affliction, often a bite or the occasional scratch from another werewolf, with the transformations occurring on the night of a full moon. When we talked about signature werewolf films, we had to talk about the two major movies from 1980s, An American Werewolf in London and The Howling. Both films employed skillful visual artists, the former with Rick Baker, the latter with Rob Bottin, to produce those amazing spine-chilling transformation sequence, which was the reason why a young KK would never have the gumption to watch this movie when we rented the VHS. But I had finally watched the John Landis classic some years back, and found it to be quite funny. Aside from the scary visuals and jump scares, I still had yet to watch Joe Dante's The Howling. Over the years, perhaps the most prominent lycans I had seen on the big screen might be from blockbusters like Van Helsing and Underworld. It was not a subgenre of horror that I was particularly intrigued with. As I was composing this review, it was announced that Robert Eggers' next project would be Werewolf, to be released in 2026. In late 2024, director Stephen C. Miller gave us an action thriller version of a werewolf's apocalypse, simply called Werewolves. Action star Frank Grillo played Wes Marshall, a microbiologist, yes you heard me right, a professional scientist, rendering his service to the US government, trying to curb a case of supermoon triggering a visceral sense of lycanthropy in people due to some sort of virus. It was all murky with the poorly thought out MacGuffin. The group of militia scientists was led by one Lou Diamond Phillips. Yes, this Lou Diamond Phillips. The build up to the first act of the movie was a classic Roland Emmerich's disaster flick, with all the tension buoyed by the generic emotional music score, with characters rousing up to the imminent apocalypse. If you are into those kind of movies, even though every single one followed the same template, you might enjoy this as well. The second act of the movie, we have Grillo literally flexing his muscles. It was like a scene-for-scene remake of The Purge election year. This was not a spoiler, but if the team of scientists had succeeded in their mission, we would not have the rest of the movie. So it was basically a treat for fans of musclehead Frank Grillo slaying werewolves with heavy artillery. The enjoyment for the audience will hinge upon a dichotomy of the plot, firstly involving Wes' precarious journey, and then a garrison in a suburban house besieged by a pack of werewolves coming for the lives of the survivors in the house. For myself, I was bought into Wes' tumultuous sequence of events, but less so with what was happening in the heavily fortified house, where silly decisions were made, shit happened. There was an overt commentary on the radical far right, which was an irony, as the whole movie felt like written by someone of the far right political stance. Frank Grillo, who we would recognize in Captain America movies as Crossbones, played Hartman in many notable movies like The Grey and End of Watch since the 2010s. While you will see a lot of testosterone-fueled movies in his filmography over the years, he had dabbled in horror movies, most notably the Purge franchise, as well as movies like Mother's Day and Demonic. I will not label Grillo as a modern-day Chuck Norris, as it would be a major disadvantage to all supernatural beings if Norris was cast in a horror movie. By having Grillo in your corner during the most tempestuous situation, it might soothe some nerves for everyone. Looking at director Stephen C. Miller's list of directorial features, it felt like he was dabbling more into action movies, yet he has made his name with the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night in 2012, and the movie before Werewolves was Margot, an artificial intelligence killing spree. In Werewolves, Miller balanced the action set pieces and the jump scares competently, and the selling point of the movie of course was the crossing of genres. However, I felt the werewolf's transformation, which is obviously made by computer graphics, did not have the same impact of a practical visual effects, and the final product was a bit cartoony. The major scare of the movie, I would say, was seen in the trailer, so in terms of effective jump scares, it can be a bit of a disappointing haul. In terms of crossing movie genres, Werewolves did work in many aspects, and it had its fun moments, but the plot is pretty thin and might not be up the alley of your typical horror fans. This is a 6 out of 10 movie for me. In 2025, Aussie director Leigh Whannell, who had previously written screenplay for many James Wan movies like Saw, Dead Silence, and Insidious, who follow up with another take of the Universal monster after the success of The Invisible Man in 2020 with Wolfman. A slight tweak of the 1933 film in the golden era of the Universal monsters, The Invisible Man was buoyed by a stellar performance from Elizabeth Moss, and the movie raked a stunning $144 million from a modest budget of $7 million. While it was meant to be a part of the Universal Monsters shared cinematic universe, which ultimately failed to take off, the success of The Invisible Man surely roused Universal Pictures' interest to make more contemporary features based on their existing IP. Whannell was not the original directing choice, but director Derek Cianfrance, who had made those soapy dramas like The Place Beyond the Pines, and if he was to direct Wolfman, Ryan Gosling would be his choice for the male lead. Maybe it was a good twist of fate that Cianfrance fell out of the project, and Universal went to the reliable source of Leigh Whannell. This version of the Wolfman started with a mountainous area of Oregon where the stern father brought his young son for a hunting trip. The father caught sight of a humanoid version of a furry creature lurking in the woods, and we set the stage of the plot of the movie. 3 decades later, the young boy, who is now estranged with his father, becoming a father himself, was trying to outdo his old man for his daughter. With his marriage on the rocks, the man thought a trip back to his childhood home in Oregon would be a remedy for his fragile relationships with both his wife and his daughter, but got rebounded on him badly. Leigh Whannell's rendition of the Wolfman story did share the estranged father plot, yet worked in the whole family setting, which was like a criterion for a Blumhouse feature. Jason Blum was the producer of this movie, of course. I really did not give a hoot about the whole family dynamics in San Francisco, but things did pick up in the wilderness of Oregon. In fact, I felt there were generally 2 acts of the movie, as the climactic end was kind of melded into the main body of the plot. Although I do admit, I enjoyed some of the tension from the ominous attacks and the ultimate revelation. As mentioned, a lot of stake for a werewolf movie was built upon a decent transformation, which is why Jack Nicholson's Wolf tends to be more forgettable, and in Wolfman, they went for a slow metamorphosis, steering away from the usual laws, which is commendable, yet felt the final outcome is lightly polarizing. For someone who shunned watching The Howling due to the nightmarish transformation, I would say it was an indifferent feel to the werewolf design here. The sound effects of growling and grunting were effective though. Christopher Abbott and Julie Garner was not household names I recognize, but sometimes fresh faces propped up a decent horror feature with commendable performances. Well, not so much in this case. Director Whannell seems to pursue Abbott for the lead role of Blake after seeing him in the Broadway play. Felt like a major step down after Ryan Gosling was supposed to be in that role. Abbott played a father figure, struggling to satiate his wife and his daughter, but there was no real backstory if he was suffering from low self-esteem but was suggested to have anger issue, which was mild to the audience. One aspect of his performance that shone was his ability to emote underneath the prosthetics, and the internal struggles he was battling was crucial for what transpired in the climactic part of the movie, as Garner, playing his wife, was not pulling her weight with her performance. The whole part when she was oblivious to her husband slowly turning into a werewolf is something I want to nitpick at. The daughter Ginger was also a prop to tug on Blake's heartstrings, and not a child acting performance to note about. Leigh Whannell's directing career began with Insidious Chapter 3, which I had caught during my marathon before watching Red Door, and I felt it was a solid inclusion to the series, although it was a side story featuring Lin Shane's character and the boys. I had yet caught up with his non-James Wan's collaboration features like Upgrade and The Invisible Man. Both I heard good things about. Whannell's take on Wolfman was very much far from the gothic horror route, and he wanted to steer it towards more of an indigenous lore with a mysterious virus causing the lycanthropic phenomenon. He was able to balance tense situation with fear-inducing set pieces. Sadly, I felt the plot was quite thin and the characters were not well written. I knew when I saw the ending, it seems like it was the rightful juncture to end the movie, yet I still tell myself that's it when the credits rolled. It seems like Wolfman did not attain the financial and critical success Universal Pictures had anticipated, and hoped it would not derail Leigh Whannell's directorial career, as I could feel there were still elements in the movie to savor for a horror fan. I'm giving Wolfman a 6 out of 10. Thank you in joining me with this double bill of Werewolves features, and please like the video if you can. Subscribe to the channel as more horror movie reviews are lined up on weekly basis. My last review was on South Korea's supernatural thriller Dark Nuns from director Kwang Hyuk Jae. Anyway, I should start filming myself on full moon nights, as I always find myself naked somewhere the next morning. I might get into trouble with the law in no time.